It doesn't matter how you get there, so long as you take the journey. Come along as I adventure finding rainbows, smiling along the way, and experience another educational moment. Rebuilt by Hadrian around 125 AD, the Pantheon is the best preserved ancient monument in Rome, a remarkable testimony to the skill of ancient masons whose partial use of granite helped ensure the building's longevity. Originally dedicated to all the gods, it was transformed into a church by Pope Boniface IV in 609 AD. Many archaeologists find the building's slightly battered dignity as thrilling. Its flattened dome is the widest in the world, exceeding the width of the dome atop St. Peter's by about 2 feet. Construction of this boulevard, conceived by Mussolini as a monumental preface to the faraway dome of St. Peter's Basilica, it required the demolition of a series of medieval neighborhoods between 1936 and 1950, rendering it without challenge the most disliked avenue in Rome. Originally built by Emperor Hadrian in 135 AD as one of the most impressive mausoleums in the ancient world, it was adapted for use as a fortress, a treasure vault, and a pleasure palace for Renaissance popes. The trio of arches in the river's center are basically unchanged since this bridge was built about 135 AD. The arches that abut the river's embankments were added late in the 19th century as part of a flood control program. On December 19, 1450, so many pilgrims gathered on this bridge, which at the time was lined with wooden buildings, that about 200 of them were crushed to death. Today the bridge is reserved exclusively for pedestrians. Here, in 1599, Beatrice Cenci and several members of her family were beheaded on the orders of Pope Clement VIII for plotting the murder of their very rich and brutal father. Their tale later inspired a tragedy by Shelley in a novel by a 19th century Italian politician. Laid out during the reign of Pope Julius II in 1503, Via Guila and its great edges were one of the Renaissance Rome's earliest examples of urban planning. Designed to facilitate access to the Vatican, it was the widest, straightest, and longest street in Rome at the time of its construction, and was bordered by the 16th century homes of such artists as Raphael, Cellini, and Borromeani. This Florentine church, with a name I couldn't begin to pronounce, is the premier symbol of the city of Florence in Papal Rome. Its design is the endless result of squabbling among such artistic rivals as Sansovino, Sangallo, and Maderno, each of whom added embellishments of his own. Michelangelo also submitted a design for the church, although his drawing did not prevail during the initial competition. Most of the building was completed during the 1620s, and Lorenzo Corsini added the facade during the 1700s. This home, built in the 1400s, was offered by Pope Julius II to the Florentine community. The home at number 85 Via Guila is on land which was once owned by Raphael. And this house at number 79, built in 1536 by the architect Sangallo as his private home, was later snapped up by a relative of Cosimo de' Medici. Completed in the mid-1500s, this palazzo was built for the Sacchetti family, a Florence-based clan of bankers and merchants who moved to Rome after they lost an epic power struggle with the Medicis. Although its front was added in early 1700, it is actually one of the oldest churches in Rome, rebuilt from an earlier model dated around 1070. The property of an Armenian Christian sect linked to Venice, this church was named after an early martyr named Sant Biagio, a portion of whose throat is included among the sacred objects inside. This structure, along with another nearby building, built during the mid-1600s, incarcerated juvenile delinquents, political prisoners, debtors, common rogues, and innocent victims of circumstance for almost 100 years. Constructed in anticipation of the 1862 visit of Queen Elizabeth II of Spain for the occasion of her charitable visit to Rome, the Palazzo of the Spanish establishment was designed by Antonio Sarti. Here we see a beautiful bridge designed by Michelangelo in 1603 to connect the Church of Santa Maria del Orizzone e Morte to the Palazzo Farnese. Built around 1575 and reconstructed about 160 years later, this property belonged to an order of monks whose job it was to collect and bury the bodies of the unclaimed indigents. Notice the depictions of the skulls decorating the church's facade. Palazzo Farnese is a prominent Renaissance palace located in Rome. It is one of the most important high Renaissance palaces in the city and has a rich historical and architectural significance. It was commissioned by Cardinal Alessandro Farnese, later Pope Paul III, in the early 16th century. The construction began in 1515 under the architect Antonio de Sangallo the Younger, and was later continued by Michelangelo and Giacomo della Porta. The palace exhibits a harmonious blend of Renaissance and Mannerist architectural styles. Michelangelo's contribution to the design of the building was especially for the upper floors. The facades are adorned with classical elements including pilasters, columns, and cornices. It is renowned for its impressive collection of artworks. The interior features works by some of the most celebrated artists of the time, including Annibale Carracci, Taddeo Zuccari, and others. Over the centuries, Palazzo Farnese served various purposes, including as a residence for the Farnese family, as a papal palace, and later as the French embassy, which is its current use. Palazzo Farnese stands as a testament to the wealth, power, and cultural patronage of the Farnese family during the Renaissance. It's a significant architectural and artistic landmark within Rome. During the 1500s, Piazza Campidoglio was the geographic and cultural center of secular Rome. It provided inns along with the occasional burning at the stake of religious heretics. Nowadays, the square hosts a morning open-air food market every day except Sunday. This is the location in Rome of the campus of famous Cornell University. Originally laid out in 86 AD as a stadium by Emperor Domitiano, it was stripped of its marble in the 4th century by Constantine, and then embellished during the Renaissance with the lavish Baroque form we see today. Piazza Navona has witnessed as much pageantry and heraldic splendor as any site in Rome. According to legend, in the Santa Maria della Pace, blood flowed from the statue of a virgin above the altar after someone threw a pebble at it. The legend motivated Pope Sixtus IV to rebuild the church in the 1500s on the foundation of an even older sanctuary. For generations after that, its curved porticos, cupola, and octagonal base adorned with frescoes by Raphael helped to make it one of the most fashionable churches for aristocrats residing in the surrounding palazzos. Here we arrive at the Piazza San Agostino. Built between 1479 and 1483 and originally commissioned by the Archbishop of Rouen, France, This was one of the first churches erected in Rome during the Renaissance. The National Church of France in Rome has functioned since 1589. Subtly carved into its facade is a stone salamander, the symbol of the Renaissance French monarch Francois I. The oldest bridge in Rome, the Ponte Fabricio, was constructed in 62 BC and connects the island to the Tiber's eastern bank. Despite its location in the heart of Rome, this calm and sun-flooded island has always been a refuge for the sick. Named after the Roman baths that once stood here, the square contains a tiny but ancient church of San Benedetto, whose facade was rebuilt in a simplified Baroque style during the 1600s. It is classified as the smallest Romanesque church in the city, and it supposedly was constructed on the site where Saint Benedict, founder of the Benedictine order, lived as a boy.